Hey everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. We're going to get back to the project that I first did a video on. It feels like it's been a couple weeks ago. Again, you guys know my concept of time when it comes to video posting is but we're going to get back to the 701. So, number of things that we're going to do today. We're going to get a new handle on it. Number one, because this saw definitely did not come with a rubber wrap handle. And normally I'd go ahead and save this for another fight somewhere, but you can see the rubber is tore up here. And it's like, well, just, tape that or bend it. Yeah. Or not bend it. Tape it or glue it. It's bent right here. I don't know if the video is going to pick that up, but this is definitely taking an impact from the front. So she's bent there. She's torn up down there. We're done. Just get it out. So what I had intended to do, because these Canadian terry-built saws typically had a painted handle, like blue or body color metallic flake. Couldn't find one of those anywhere. Could find a black, this is that kind of vinyl coating. You can see it's got a little wear, but whatever. Ordered that. Threw that on the floor. Got this blue. Matches perfect. Actually, it matches perfect. But then, I found the handle in the United States. This had to trek its way from Canada. And of course, I ordered it when the Canadian postal strike was still going. So I've been waiting longer than I like to wait. It's not the seller's fault. It is what it is, But then I was on eBay, and I happened to find something else that I liked even better. So then I was waiting for two things. A full wrap. And this is off of a 902. I haven't even fully opened this yet. I'm going to lose a little more of that green paint. That's too bad. Folks, if you're going to sell parts, do whoever you're selling them to a favor and don't put tape on painted surfaces. And that's why. See all that green paint that came off? And in the end, I'm not going to lose any sleep. This is not a show queen. But if it was and that happened, yeah. So we've got the handle bracket for that too. Now, oh, look at that. That is a metal insert. I'm going to be interested to see how that works. Eventually, I should probably paint this blue. But we're not going to do that today. At least not on camera. That's just silliness. We're not going to waste time with that. I took the starter off last night and was really scraping and probing and cleaning up junk. There's still some more stuff that I could scrape loose here. But what I was really worried about was between the cylinder fins and the throttle housing and the tank. It looks pretty good now. That's the muffler back there. You can see my hand, okay? You actually can see through those fins pretty well now. You couldn't before I started, and it was the gooey caramelized. Yeah. So, no. That is fixed. Before we start playing with the handle, though, we're going to attack this bar stud and replace that. You see that front one, how it's... I don't know what was going on there. I'm a little afraid of what it's going to look like underneath there when we get it apart. But hopefully I'm afraid for no good reason, and this will be not bad. So I think I've got all my parts out here. Well, the studs, these new ones, well, any of them, should have this shape on the back. And that is to keep it from rotating, so there should be a machine surface in there that this fits into. And then this retainer goes right down over the top of. Now, even these retainers don't look quite right on this saw. And this new one, which is the correct one, doesn't match what's in there that uses this wider tool. So I'm actually gonna have to check and make sure that I have this wider or this narrow tool. I'm not 100% certain that I do. Well, let's start by seeing if we can get this old one out. So the Homelite tools, again, you can't, unless you find them on eBay, you're not gonna find them, or you buy out a shop. Okay, they don't exist. You can make them. Take a socket, a piece of, thicker wall pipe. You find a pipe nipple that's the right length here. You can do this. But, yeah, that's what that is. And that came right loose. And I don't see threads coming out with it, so that's kind of good. And bars. But that stud should be lifting right out, and it's not. So that concerns me. I don't know. And this should come all the way off. I don't know what has happened here. Oh, there it is. God. There we go. I just want that off so that I can see down in here. Where'd you go? Let's do that. Okay, so I am so worried about what has been done here. Because, yeah, in trying to fix something, I may make something worse. Alright. Okay, someone used some sort of an epoxy to help hold it in place. And it actually may not have been sitting flush down in there because of said epoxy. In fact, it almost certainly wasn't. Now that stuff wasn't super thick. Okay. That's not bad. So the new one will fit. It'll drop in. I guess I see why they did it. There is a tiny bit of movement to it when it drops in there. So before this was dealt with, it probably had sat there and moved around a bit. You know, there is a slight difference in the stud length here, but this is the correct Homelite part. That's interesting. This one's not even seated all the way. I have a feeling it got the same treatment. And maybe by somebody who didn't have a tool that would fit this real well. And God knows I've been guilty of tightening these with a nail setting tool or something like that. This one I hadn't intended to replace because its threads aren't all boogered up. Oh wow. I maybe should just leave it alone. The only reason I'm looking at it is because this retainer was not sitting all the way down the way it should. You can see that on both bar plates. You can see how the retainer has left marks. The front one was the worst. This back one that I'm dinking around with right now wasn't that bad. So this may be one of those cases where I should just leave well enough alone. This is coming up very rough. but I can see some epoxy of some sort down in there. Come on. Oh, man. I'm definitely fighting someone else's creation here. Okay, I'd like to do something a little better with that, but at the risk of creating more work that is unnecessary, I'm not going to. Let's see if we can get this to thread down tight enough that I can be happy with it. It's close. I certainly don't want to break this tool or strip those threads. Alright, we're going to say good enough. So I'm going to see if I have the right tool for this particular one. And we'll come back. Okay, I do not. So I'm going to reuse the old one, assuming that I can get it to tighten down in a way that I consider satisfactory. And we will hope... Oh. It would also help if I was actually using the one that was meant for 5/16 and not 3/8. That does fit a little tighter. There we go. Oh, that feels good. Now that went down exactly where it belongs. This one has got epoxy under it. I may have to come back and fight with that someday. The fit is pretty good right there. But I can definitely see it's lifted a little bit. That can be another day thing. Or maybe I'll forget entirely. Okay, so the clutch and sprocket are seized, and I don't know why. I'm going to assume it's an assembly issue, so we're going to unassemble it and just see what we've got. We have a mismatch of the clutch and drum. Something just doesn't quite look right there. Those shoes are basically jammed all the way out. Alright, see if I can cheat the system one more time here. Yep. Okay. Get out of there. Huh. The bearing's rough, but it's not. It's dry. 68383. That part doesn't ring a bell. But let's use the old measuring tape. Says it should be right. I think that's too tight though. Yeah, And I didn't look at the IPL to see if this style clutch is appropriate for this style drum. So what we're going to do is what I like to do anyhow. We'll put a rim on this, which means I need to find a race that is the appropriate size. That's not it. I'll bet that is, though. Come on, get out there. That'll do it. I think that's the bearing. I don't care. Whatever. It's a bearing. It'll work. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm going to withhold judgment on that. What I like about this a little bit better is this will now use the race as the bearing surface as opposed to the crankshaft with the fixed bearing that this thing has. So let's grease the bearing up a little bit here. This looks like the older style that doesn't have quite as many reliefs machined into it to hold the grease in place, but the reality, and this may, some folks may disagree with it, but your oil pump should be putting out enough oil that a little bit is getting back, traveling on the chain back to the sprocket, clutch drum, whatever you want to call it, and it should be helping lubricate this. That does not absolve you of doing some maintenance and lubricating it like I have just done, but it should be doing some of that on its own. Alright, we need a rim. Well, I tell you, Oregon has sure popped the price high on these damn things. I think they're close to 10 bucks a whammy now. Makes those Archer rims seem worth a try. Okay, that feels a lot better. So then you've got your spacer washer in there. There, she's loose now. Alright. Where'd I put it? There we go. Get this back on reasonably tight. Since I don't want that clutch zinging across the garage. Well, I think we'll put a bar and chain on her. Alright. A little bit of corrosion, gunk, some wear. This has definitely been on here a while, but nothing that looks terrible. Now, we've all seen those drive case covers that have holes cut in them. I'm going to do a dab of red on these. And despite what everyone says online, I've never had a problem getting this out. Especially when it's used in what I consider to be appropriate amounts. Maybe you've had something different. Not sure that I've seen a US saw with this style clutch plate where the threads for these bolts are far enough in that your tool for removing the clutch doesn't do anything to them. Kind of an interesting design. Alright. Nice and smooth. Yep, I'm happy with that. Well, that was the hard part. And that wasn't hard. Let's get this old handle out of the way. We may, depending on what is in the bag, we may reuse some of this hardware. Yeah, see how that handle's springing out and the screw hasn't come loose? This thing's under tension. It's been walloped. Get that handle bracket out if we can. Oh yeah. The bracket's still fine. The appropriate spacer and all that stuff's in there. So that's not trash. 68766-1, this is a 925 bracket, which is, in my world, a virtual certainty that it's a 925 handle. But like I say, this handle has been used and abused fairly thoroughly. Good thing these full wrap handles are a solid mount, so we're not going to be dinking around with any of the bushings and all of that stuff. Yeah, that's too bad. Oh yeah, that's out of clock by quite a few degrees there. I don't know if the camera will pick that up sighting down it, but it's... Could a person maybe straighten it? Yeah, maybe. I don't think we're to the scarcity point of that just yet. Certainly not in this shop. Alright. So let's see what we've got. Is that going to fit? Oh man, that is nice. That is an actual steel insert. That's pretty cool. Oh, it's going to be rock solid. I do want to clean these screws up just a smidge, though. A lot of junk on the threads. And these do like to vibrate loose, so they're going to get a coat of blue. I'm looking at this fuel line installation, and it's not quite to spec. There's no grommet in the tank, so that will leak. Now, no part of this saw is pristine enough. I may just leave that green, match the handle. I'm assuming that there was a blue version of that at some point, but I don't know how many of them were ever made. Truthfully, I'm not sure I care. Alright, because I saw it, we're going to fix it. probably swollen to the point where I'm going to have to replace it. Show you guys what I'm talking about. Where the fuel hose enters the tank. See how it's just shoved through. It's fairly thick, but that will, well, that stupid cap is not tight, but that will leak at some point. So we're going to just go ahead and get that out of there and put a grommet on it. And see if I can avoid spilling fuel all over the bench in the process. Come on, baby. Alright. Where's There's my fuel line hooker. That's what they did. They used a... Oh, yuck. Where's the... Did that come unplugged? Yuck. Where's the filter and yuck? Dang. I sure don't want that kind of trash. If that's what's at the bottom of the tank, I sure don't want that running through my carburetor. Well, poo. It's going to take a little longer than I anticipated. Damn. I don't need to take that off. Okay, I know why they did this. I understand that. But we're going to do it a better way, a more right way. Not that that was wrong. We can do it more right. And I want to see if there's a filter and if I can recover it. This makes a mess when you do this. I think I hear one rattling in there. Oh yeah. Aha. There's two. Jeez. Oh, the joy of... At least I think I felt two. There's one. Oh, that's nasty. That's so nasty. Oh, look at... I don't even want to touch that. You think the bottom of that tank might be gross? That is disgusting. But I think... Yeah, there's another one. That must be the one she was running on. Wow. That's funny. That wasn't. Tools are supposed to stay on the bench. Well, the good news, if I have a felt, got an extra filter there. Yuck. Bad news is I think that means the bottom of this tank. Oops. Oh yeah. Sludge. Sludge City. Alright. As much as I would love to ignore that and pretend I didn't see that, well, I saw that. So we're going to use a technique that has worked pretty well for me in the past. Get some acetone in there. we're going to let that sit for a few minutes. Good. Just like cooking dinner over here. We'll let that sit while we work for a minute. And then we'll really give it the good stuff. And, yeah, like I said, though, if I have some felts on hand, that is reusable, as nasty as that looks. Ugh. Okay, we're going to put a grommet in here and use a smaller hose, because that's the right way to do it. So in my fuel hose kits that I sell, you've got a grommet there and a grommet up here. This one has a larger piece of hose again, so I'm not sure it's going to leak at the air box there. I'll have to keep an eye on that. And by leak, I mean leak air and sawdust and shazat in there. Stuff you don't want in the engine. Alright, I always cut these tank lines to about 8.5 inches. And this is exactly, if you buy my, is it the FLS24 hose kit, this is what you're getting, is the stuff I'm using right now. So, note that the grommet area is rather yucky poo. We're going to see about making it not so. These originally would have had a molded hose that had a grommet built into it. The repros of these work a lot better than the repros of the Super XL version, but I like my system better, simply because it's standard. 20 years from now, this grommet's probably still going to be good, and as long as Tygon hose still exists, or some equivalent of it, you'd be able to replace this. Well, hell, in 20 years, who knows if anybody will be running a gas chainsaw. But I'd like to think we still will be. I got nothing against some of the battery equipment, but I'm hoping classic saws and equipment will be kind of like classic vehicles. There'll always be a place for them. And I have yet to see a battery-powered saw that will do what one of these things will do. So, we got a long ways to go, I think. Alright. So you saw the angle cut, I just fished it in. This is super easy to install. And just bring it out of the tank. Getting some yuck on that. I'm not going to clean up and put a filter on it yet, because I don't want to, when I dump out that acetone, I don't want the new filter felt covered in whatever unknown substance is coming out of there. Alright, it's a cold morning. So, be prepared for the Tygon to fight you a little bit. It will fit. It will fit just fine. But if you stretch the tip a little bit, warm it up a little bit by stretching it, you will have less of an issue. If you're doing this on an 80-degree day, you're going to have no issue. There we go. Well, pliers too far forward. There she goes. So you want to bring your hose back to about the bend in the pipe. At least I do. Generally, there's going to be witness marks on there from the last hose. Alright, now, put a little oil back on the outside of this. You want to reduce friction as you're popping through that grommet. This is a tight fit, but where the grommet's going to seal is on the pipe here, so it doesn't matter. You're not going to be pinching off fuel flow. So, get it lined up. Slip your pipe behind an oil line that's in the way here. You won't find that exact setup on the 925 if I remember correctly. That's routed a little different. And just slowly start pulling. And there. You heard it and you saw it. It just pops right in. So I wasn't pushing hard right here, just a tiny bit with my finger. And as soon as you feel that pop, it means the ridge of that pipe has popped to the other side of the grommet. That's not leaking. Okay? That is the kind of installation you want. The kind that will last. So don't forget to tighten your pipe back down. And yes, if you wanted to, in theory, if you're doing this yourself and you just have hose on hand, you could run a solid piece. Use a little retainer, and you wouldn't need the pipe. I don't know if that was a way to cool fuel, air off of here, easier installation for Homelite engineers. I don't know. Truthfully, I don't care. Whatever works for you. Go ahead and do it. Alright, we're good there. And God, I wish my kid would quit whining in there. Alright, see if I've got a fuel filter cleaned up. I do. But I also have some felts. So let's take the least nasty of the filters and get one prepped. And okay, they both suck. There is no least nasty. I'm going to bring this paper towel back because it's already destroyed. When you have a felt that looks like this, your best bet is to cut it off. Just get in there and slice it down and get it out of the way. You might be able to clean that with a whole bunch of carb cleaner, brake cleaner. But that's just gross. And then all this junk on the weight. I don't want to introduce that back into the tank at all. That's nasty. Okay, so you want to check that slot in there. That's how fuel gets into the filter itself and gets drawn into the engine. That is not anything I want in my engine, in my carburetor. In fact, I'm hoping nothing's hardened in that carb yet. Okay, that should have gotten the chunkers out. It's amazing the kind of concoction that gasoline can turn into. Okay. Reality, at $8 or $10, the replacement Tillotson version of this filter is going to be the way to go if you don't have a supply of felts on hand. But there we go, good as new. Okay, that acetone has had a little bit of time to work. I'm going to give it the old gut punch, so to speak, and I'm going to use these 4 screws for the starter cover as some abrasive material. That should be good enough. Should be. Now, I don't want my screws to disappear, so I'm going to use yet another chunk of the old paper towel, because this stuff in this can is just going to become fire starter. Oh, yuck. Look at that color. That's good. Get out of my tank. Okay. Man, before that all drains, look at the color of that nasty stuff. Right, there's a screw. Alright, they're close. That's the downside of getting the screw back out. Kind of sucks. But oh, there's another. If I hadn't put the hose in yet, I probably could have made this a little easier. There they are. Ooh, look at that. That's some tank liner. So that's the bad thing. Now we know that that has been damaged. Not that there was a whole hell of a lot of doubt of that. But the reality is, when this old fuel... Man, it plugged the paper towel. That still hasn't drained. Whatever that gobbledygook of crap is, it's not draining through that paper towel now. It's like a coffee filter that gets plugged. I'll just let that sit there for a while. We'll see if it still has enough cleaning properties to loosen some of that yuck. Get a new pad there. Alright. Now that Operation Acetone is taken care of, make sure I didn't damage the paint too much. If you have a pristine saw, you don't want to get that stuff all over the paint, but if you have a pristine saw, you shouldn't have a need to get that stuff all over the paint. Okay. Let's go ahead and install our fuel filter and get that part done. You want to cut the slice end off. I try to leave in my kits about a ½ inch of extra on the overall length. So the angle cut, you're not losing anything when you take that off. That's extra material that I purposely left there. Come on, baby. These like to slip at the last minute, and I jam those pliers into my thumb more times than I can tell you has happened. I might escape that fate today. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and put some fuel back in it so that it has to mix. If I didn't get every drop of acetone out, which I'm sure I didn't, we won't get a surge of that when I do fire it up. Probably would make great starting fluid. Which of course we know we shouldn't do on these saws. Okay. Alright.
Do you not have any more of the, like, big soap things?
Don't ask me, ask Mom. No clue.
Mom, do we have any more of those, like, soap things?
It's kids clean the rooms, the house, and overall laundry day. With all of the chaos that naturally comes with that. Okay. Alright, let's see. There we go. It's backwards. That won't work. Try that again. That was funny. Okay. With these handlebars, it pays to start everything before tightening anything. Okay. And it's full of crusties. A couple more turns. Good enough. Sure. I can't see squat, but I think that's it. There she is. Okay. Reality, these could get a little Loctite blue too if they become a problem. Okay. I like that look. I like that look a lot. I think we ought to put the starter back on, and in reality it would have been easier, excuse me, with the clearances to put the starter on before that. But I wasn't thinking ahead, so hey, we'll do it this way. Best way to lube these is just like that. Put a little in there, pull it out a few times, let it work its way down in. Keep that bushing and everything lubed. The shape of the full wrap handle is different than the bent junker handle. So, tightening this top screw is going to be a lot easier. Just like on a Super EZ, the handle can get in the way. Alright. Get these all centered up. If the starter cocks to one side, this socket won't go around and all the way in, being a thick wall impact socket. Okay. not bad. Not too bad at all. But we're still missing something here. Because what would a dressed up saw be without a bucking spike? Well, it wouldn't be a dressed up saw at all, now would it? This will be the shiniest part of this saw. I could see this full wrap handle conversion as the kind of thing that a guy would go down to the local saw shop back in the late 60s or early 70s and saying, yep, I don't care what color it is, just get it for me. And they would have. Okay. Nice. Actually, I was going to put that on the other side, wasn't I? But it clears the bar screw here, so I don't necessarily care. Whatever. Alright, before we drop a bar and chain on and listen to this thing run one more time, I also want to do something that I do to all of my saws where I have the option, and that is install a spark arrestor. I realize in some parts of the country that's not a thing, but it is here. And if I take a vintage saw out in the woods to make a video, I want to make damn certain that I'm not the idiot that causes a forest fire. This fits tight. There we go. Am I going to lose a quarter second in the cut because of that? Don't know, don't care. That is irrelevant to me. Right. Let's throw a bar and chain on this. And we'll take a listen to it real quick. I'm going to stick with a relatively period correct bar. This is a little bit newer, but it will work. And it's not so obscenely long that I'll have a hard time finding a spot. Well, I will have a hard time just because, yeah, I have too many saws, but I will have less of a hard time finding a spot for it. Wasn't thinking. That has 5/16 studs. That really should have a spacer. And yes, I keep a supply of these in the shop for me to use as well. I may have some in stock on the website. I don't know. anymore. I truthfully don't know. I've added so many parts recently. There we go. A little better. Out a bit. Sure didn't look bent, but that's rough. Okay. Bar plate. XL-700 cover. Boy, I'll tell you, I'd love to have a 701 cover that has the proper logo on it, but the seller of this one sent me a picture of what was left. And he was right. It wasn't worth the extra 8 ounces it would have put into the shipping. Into the box. It was in pretty rough shape. And if it had had visible logo on it, I might have lived with that pretty rough shape and said, sure, send it along, but the logo was pretty well roached. There wasn't much left of it. So what's the point, right? Alright, let's go a little tighter on you. Beautiful. Okay. I think I gave this some oil last time. Not much. Should be enough that we can put a little oil on the bar. Alright. Time for the reward. Oh, and this finally drained. That's the crap that came out of that tank. So yeah, not really what you want in your carburetor. That's right. That throttle lock didn't like to work. Yeah. Whatever. Oh, don't tell me that. Come on. Okay, I know better. Just as I was starting to see some oil on the chain, we are going to find some debris in that carburetor. Oh man. Oh, son of a gun. I hate. The slot is torn out on that, and the way those are shaped, it's almost impossible to get a socket down in there. I don't even know if the stupid standard thin wall will get in. Thankfully. Wasn't good, but it got it. There's a saw, or a video of this saw running. That's why I didn't do anything to it in the way of carburetor work or anything. But it is certainly not uncommon to buy a running saw and still have to do a few things to it. The only reason I'm doing this is I want to see what's in that screen, because it's going to be right up on top here. Come on, diaphragm. That's, material's acting kind of weird. Oh, shit. There we go, okay. I actually thought there wasn't a screen in there for a minute. I was going to have a coronary. All that crap that we just cleaned out of the tank. That. Yuck. That's sticking to my finger. Yuck. I don't know if I can clean that screen or not. Efficiently. Not really. Awful lot of junk left in that. Let's just see if our magic actually looks a little bit big. It is a little big. That doesn't belong in there. That is the wrong screen. Wonderful. Alright, I'm going to have to find a screen, and we'll come back. Oh, you poop. Okay. We didn't need any more Tillotson HS carb work on this channel. I can smell that muffler paint finally getting hot and taking a set. Nice. Okay, so it's oiling good. You can see the puddle on the bench. You can see the wet on the chain. Its failure to rev properly was 100% that plugged fuel screen. And that is so common in these things to have that happen. So, say you get a saw. Say you guys get a saw in. You drop some fuel in it, you get it to start, you get it all tuned, but it's an old one like this, and you suspicion that there's things it needs, okay? You come back to it in a couple, 3 days, start it up again, and then all of a sudden it starts doing what that one just did. Because you guys heard it the night I tuned it. It was fine, but that fuel sat in here for a couple of weeks, and it softened up all of that nasty crap that was at the bottom of the fuel tank there. Sucked it up into that carb, and started to harden it. Made it so that the fuel couldn't get through this little screen. And some of that junk, you can see it is still stuck in there even after a good dose of carburetor cleaner. So that right there demonstrates the importance of the screen and the carburetor there, having that in place. Otherwise, that would have made its way through to the fuel metering side, okay, where you've got your inlet needle and you've got your jets and all of that. Would you want that gobbledygook crap in there? I wouldn't, because you know what it would do. So, yeah. But here we are. Here we are, folks. We have an XL-701AM. It is going in my collection. I am super stoked to have it. I still need to put that air filter cover bracket back on, and I need to pop this off and take a peek at why the throttle latch isn't working. And while I'm in there, I'm going to put a new rod boot grommet on that, on the throttle rod. But whatever. That's enough for this video. That's sweet. That just looks badass. XL-701AM Terry going into the collection. We'll catch you guys in the next one.